Hello and welcome to today's Oh the Times, Oh the Customs recordings, coming live from the Isle of Man. We are looking at the absurdities of modern life and how we all deal with them as usual. The mist has just lifted here on the island, although unfortunately the rain continues to fall. That in itself leads me into quite an interesting folklore story which I thought I'd share with you. Now, the mist here on the island is known colloquially as Manannan's Mist. Who is Manannan, I hear you cry? Manannan is a Celtic sea god who resides on the island, incidentally, on the slope just in the top right of your picture there. He has the best interests of the island at heart because he rather kindly shrouds the island in a mist for what seems like days on end, really. And it is said that this mist is sent by Manannan to ward off any potential invaders by covering the island and effectively making it invisible. Now, this is all very noble and that, but I tend to take a modern look at this. I have consulted the UN figures on migration, as it happens, and as we all know, the UN is never wrong. But I am taking them at face value today, and it would appear that the Isle of Man has the highest net inward migration pretty much anywhere in the world over the last 40 years in percentage terms. Therefore, one has to say that Manannan's Mist has perhaps not been too effective in warding off any potential outsiders. Now, I am not going to go into the validity of Celtic folklore stories, nor am I going to talk about the pros and cons of inward migration to the Isle of Man. What I am going to talk about, though, is builders. Now, it may appear I am coming across rather harsh on builders in this video. I'm not singling them out deliberately. I could turn my gaze to any occupation and lambast them. However, I have to say that if you were to take a straw poll anywhere in Britain, then builders would not come out particularly highly in terms of customer satisfaction. They do seem to be a source of great misery, great stress, great expense, and all in all, people are quite glad to see them drive off their property and bid them farewell, in my experience. Now, that said, we all have to deal with builders, they're a part of our life, and, you know, there's nothing we can do about it. So I'm just going to start by talking about a little example of not just builders' hypocrisy, but all our hypocrisy in society. Now, I would suggest, why is it that any building firms, they all appear to collude in any locality anywhere in the British Isles between themselves to ensure that there are at least half a dozen men available to attend the magistrate's court to bang on the side of a police van containing an alleged nonce, for want of a better word. So what you say, fine, they deserve it. Well, you know, we can go into do they deserve it, don't they deserve it. The point is the hypocrisy I'm trying to get to. And this comes by the fact that if one has to run an errand in their lunch hour within half a mile of their local high school, you try getting parked within this half-mile radius. It is impossible because every single parking space is taken up by builders, open brackets, having their lunch, close brackets. Now, by having their lunch, of course I mean having their lunch and perving on teenage girls walking downtown to stuff their face with a Big Mac or shit bap or whatever they eat these days. That is the hypocrisy of the situation. Now, if you walk within this radius, to get a bit wordy, it reminds me of the West Indies slip cordon in the 1980s. You have the school as the batsman, you have teenage girls as the cricket ball, and you have the builders surrounding the school looking for an edge, i.e. a smirk off a teenage girl as they walk downtown. That is getting all a bit silly, so I would suggest it's more like a white van show of strength, a North Korea military parade with builders giving a metaphorical salute to schoolgirls as they walk downtown. Enough of the wordiness. So that's the hypocrisy of the situation, but as they're doing it, to extend the story somewhat, it appears that the rules of the site continue to apply as they are sat in their vans having their lunch. Ha ha. For example, imagine a transit van with 3 builders in. They are stuffing their face with sausage rolls and ogling schoolgirls. Suddenly, the man in the driver's seat looks in the rearview mirror. He sees the foreman coming towards them. He says to his mates, "Oh, look lively, lads, here comes the foreman." The lads sit up straight. They clear the crumbs from their gob. They look serious and workmanlike. The foreman bangs on the side of the van, shoves his head in the passenger window in a jovial manner, shouts, "Oi, oi, lads. You've got a good position today, one of the best seats in the house." The lads all laugh. The foreman then ruffles his high-vis jacket, looks at his clipboard and gets down to business. He says, "Right lads, so I've spoken to the school office. Good news and bad news. That chunky girl in the tight hipster trousers you like, Steve, she's off sick, I'm afraid." All the lads go, "Ugh, I was looking forward to that. That's a pity." The foreman replies, "I know, I was looking forward to seeing those little titties bounce, lads. But the good news is this, that new starter in year 11, the tidy little blonde piece, apparently she's meeting her mum in town for lunch today, so she'll definitely be walking past. And get this, lads, apparently she's wearing that tight skirt and tight blazer combination, as we all like." Much way, get in there, oi oi, from the builders in the van. The man in the driver's seat says, "Great, I'll give Dave from the builder's yard a shout. He's a big fan of her. He may be able to swap his lunch again." The foreman says, "Yeah, good idea, and make sure you tell Pete the plasterer. We all know he likes her. Share the wealth, oi oi. Anyway, I better go and tell the ground workers the news. See, they've got the disabled spot at the gates again, the lucky sods. All the best, lads. Enjoy yourself." And there you go. The hypocrisy of it all is further enhanced by the fact that alongside them is a salesman dressed in a suit, chomping on his salad box. He too is sat within the half-mile radius, but he is actually entirely innocent. He is checking his emails and just wolfing his salad box. The builders turn on him. They say, "Oi, what you doing, you nonce?" And continue to beat him up. Society is completely fine with this. It appears that builders, it is expected of them to ogle schoolgirls. Anyone else, you are effectively writing your own death warrant. That's the rules. I don't make them up. For example, chavvy single mums walking past who would do the hanging of anyone else ogling their daughters. They shout out to builders, "Fill your boots, you dirty sods. You haven't changed, have you? You were all doing this 15 years ago when I was at school, you dirty buggers." Way, everyone laughs. That's the hypocrisy. Now, I'll move on from that and say the whole builder schooly thing is ironic, given that all builders have the emotional fortitude of a 13-year-old girl themselves. Now, the reason for this is they are all shit scared of being found out for what they are, a bunch of chancers acting or attempting to act professionally. They are motivated by fear of being found out, and they have the, shall we say, well, as I've just said, emotional fortitude of a 13-year-old girl. They are not particularly self-assured, and it's quite nauseating. Go down any builder's merchant and you'll hear the worst bitching known to man. Co-workers, subcontractors, foremen, rival firms, they're all getting at both barrels. Picture 2 builders stood next to each other. One says to each by the timber, one says to the other. I heard that useless tosser Dino fucked up that extension, had to pull it down, got the wrong finish on the skim, didn't he? The useless fucker. The second builder turns to him and says, aye, he's bloody useless alright. 10 grand compo we had to pay that rich bitch up by the common, messed up the drains big style, didn't he? Fucking joker, wants to give it up, he does. Behind the timber, Dino overhears the slagging, he runs out the merchants in distress. A minute later, he is wheel spinning away the van in tears. 15 minutes later, he is in his workshop drinking whiskey and smashing the place to smithereens. Another 15 minutes later, he is hanging from a tree in the garden with a note attached to his body, slagged off by a fellow tradesman. A step too far for anyone. Do not mourn for me. I am at peace now. Bloody pathetic. That's my first video on builders. I have got plenty more to say on it. I might do another one, so laters.